What's going on, guys? Dottz here, and today I'm bringing you guys a beginner overview to the Rogue class in World of Warcraft, giving you an introduction to the class and some beginner setups that you can use to get used to the class and its mechanics. This guide assumes that you have at least a basic understanding of World of Warcraft and are simply looking for information to help you learn a new class or understand if the class is right for you. But before we get into today's guide on the Rogue, I do just want to thank the sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal delivery service that sends ingredients to make easy and delicious home-cooked meals right to your door. I personally have used HelloFresh in the past myself, and when I used it for over a year. So whenever they contact me to run sponsorships, I'm like always more than happy to showcase their service because it's something I've personally used and really enjoyed. One of the best parts about HelloFresh is they send you just enough food to make however many portions of the meals you choose, usually either 2 or 4. And I know personally buying food for 2 people can be a huge pain, and oftentimes like you end up having a lot of food waste. But HelloFresh totally cuts down on that because they send you just enough to make your portions. You can also customize how many meals you want them to send you in a week, making it easy for you to fit HelloFresh into your budget and into your schedule. The meals themselves are also fantastic, and they have options that fit into a wide variety of diet plans, and they also switch up the options depending on the seasons. And some of the recipes that my wife and I cook for ourselves to this day are meals that we've discovered from HelloFresh. So with the new year and so many people trying to eat healthier, now is honestly the perfect time to give HelloFresh a shot. And especially if you guys use my link and my code in the description below, you can get 21 meals completely free plus shipping. So just click the link in that description below like I mentioned and use the code shown on screen when you go to check out. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's video covering the Rogue class. The Rogue is a damage dealing class that focuses on using attacks to build up combo points, which are then spent on more powerful finishing moves to the target base, and the more combo points spent, the stronger that ability is, with the total number of combo points capping out at 5 at a base. Rogues are one of the few classes that have the ability to stealth, therefore rogues are capable of sneaking around undetected, dispatching their foes with a series of quick attacks and then vanishing from sight. Rogues bring a variety of poisons, bleeds, stuns, and other disabling effects to the table, and are great at dealing damage and controlling their opponents. Rogues are known for their elusiveness, having a number of defensive abilities that make them good at escaping combat, while having other abilities to crowd control their opponents so they can move to safety or deal damage to them unimpeded. Rogues are a pure damage dealing class, meaning that they do not have a tank or healing specialization. Assassination rogues focus on the poison aspect of the class, empowering the poisons on their daggers to add more potent damage over time effects to their arsenal of strong direct damage. Outlaw rogues are the swashbucklers of the class who utilize swords to deal high amounts of area of effect damage, rolling their dice for random combat enhancements, and utilizing their trusty pistol to also deal damage. Finally, sub-rogues embrace the shadows, striking from stealth with their daggers in high burst windows and controlling their enemies' movements with incredibly strong crowd control effects. In addition to the combo points I mentioned earlier, rogues' primary resource is called energy, which is what they use to cast their skills, and energy regenerates slowly over time, but certain things can instantly restore it. In addition, rogues wear leather armor, they utilize agility as their primary stat to deal damage, and they wield daggers, one-handed swords, maces, axes, and fist weapons, depending on the specialization. As I've mentioned, rogues have the innate ability to go into stealth, and they have certain skills that can only be used in stealth, but offer a ton of additional power. When you play a rogue and go into stealth, your main action bar will turn into your stealth bar, which is the skill bar that you can utilize while your character is under the benefits of stealth, or a passive that lets you use that skill bar. So it's a perfect place to put the skills that can only be used while in stealth. Now, the following builds that I have in today's video, guys, are tailored towards new players, looking to make your rotation as easy and straightforward as possible while adding as few additional skills to your action bars when I can. If you're looking for something more advanced and just focus simply on dealing as much damage as possible, I recommend checking out other websites or other videos for builds more tailored towards more end game raids, Mythic Plus, and rated PvP. Thankfully, these builds don't differentiate crazy too much from their advanced versions, but just have some more defensive and passive capabilities to make their rotations and number of keybinds easier for new players. Now, guys, let's move into the specializations, with our first one being the Assassination Rogue. Assassination Rogues are the master poisoners, like I said, utilizing those poison and bleed effects to deal the brunt of their damage. Their damage over time skills also empower their burst skills, giving them a very fun and well-balanced damage profile. The talent build that we have spec'd out today takes some talents that give us some extra healing and defensive boosts as well, allowing us to easily recover from any mistakes that we may make. This build focuses on giving us a lot of passive boosts, and I'll be going over any active abilities that we've added in the rotation section. Now, you can import this build that you have on the screen right into your talent tree. The import string can be found in the description below. To import this build, simply click the talent pane, click the import thing on the bottom left, and then when you click import, it'll bring it up. Just paste in the string and name the profile, and you will be able to import this build. Now, for the poison choice for the rogue, we are going to be able to actually use 4 poisons as Assassination Rogue, 2 lethal poisons and 2 non-lethal poisons. So we're going to use Deadly and Amplifying Poison for our lethals, and Atrophic and Crippling Poison for our non-lethals. So moving into the rotation, we want to maintain Slice and Dice at all times for the attack speed boost. We also want to keep our 2 primary bleeds, Rupture and Garrote, applied to the main target at all times. We also want to use Death Mark, which is one of our big offensive cooldowns, on cooldown. We want to also activate Vanish on cooldown to reapply Garrote before using Death Mark. This is because the Garrote that you use from stealth deals more damage than the Garrote from out of stealth, so being able to duplicate that with Death Mark is really beneficial. Use Exsanguinate on cooldown as well. Also make sure to use Exsanguinate before duplicating your bleeds with Death Mark. Use Shiv on cooldown. Use Echoing Reprimand on cooldown. Use Serrated Bone Spike on cooldown in a multi-target situation, and just be sure it's simply maintained in single target situations. And otherwise, you want to spend combo points on Envenom to deal damage and extend Slice and Dice. You want to use Mutilate to generate combo points on 3 or less targets, and use Phantom Knives to generate combo points on more than 3 targets. Like I said, guys, for some offensive notes, we want to use Death Mark on our primary target whenever we want to deal big damage, as this offensive cooldown will cause the target to bleed and duplicate our main dots, giving us a ton of additional pressure. We can also use Shadow Step to quickly gap close to targets to get on them quickly, and this could also be used defensively to move to allies. Speaking of which, for some defensive notes, use Cloak of Shadows to defend against magical attacks, as it removes all magical effects and makes you immune to them. If you are fighting a physical damage dealer and are in trouble, using Evasion will be helpful, as it allows you to dodge their attacks. Crimson Vial is the really only active heal that we have on the rogue, so be sure to use that to recover some HP if you find yourself needing a heal in combat in a pinch. If you aren't as comfortable using Vanish offensively, you could also use Vanish defensively to just hop into stealth while in combat so your enemies can't track you and you can escape. Keep in mind, though, that after the short Vanish window, any damage over time effects that are on you will break you out of the regular stealth. Also, stealth can't be used while in combat, so Vanish is your only way to re-stealth mid-combat unless you run away to get your character out of combat. You can also use Feint if you see yourself about to take a big hit of damage, and use that to, dampen that AoE damage that you might be taking. Now, moving into our stat priority, we're going to prioritize our main stat, Agility, followed by Critical Strike, Mastery, Haste, and Versatility. Now, moving into our next spec, that is going to be the Outlaw Rogue. Outlaw Rogues are swashbucklers, like I said, who utilize swords to deal high amounts of area of effect damage, rolling their dice for random combat enhancements and utilizing their trusty pistol to also deal damage. Similarly to the Assassination Rogue, the talent build that we have spec'd out today takes talents to give us some extra healing and defensive boosts, allowing us to recover easily from any mistakes we make, and focuses more on giving us passive boosts as opposed to just slapping in as many extra abilities. But any abilities that we do add outside of what we have at a base, I will go over in the rotation section. Now, the import string for this build can also be found in the description below. Our poison choice for the Outlaw Rogue is going to be Instant Poison for our lethal and Atrophic Poison for our non-lethal. In terms of our damage rotation, we are going to want to use Adrenaline Rush on cooldown. We're going to want to activate Blade Flurry if more than one target is present and stacked. We want to use Roll the Bones on cooldown. You can get a little bit more advanced with Roll the Bones if you have more experience on Rogue, but for the purposes of this guy, just pretty much use it on cooldown. Use Killing Spree on cooldown. Maintain Slice and Dice on yourself at all times. Cast Between the Eyes on cooldown when you have 6 or more combo points. Cast Ghostly Strike on cooldown. Use Shadow Dance on cooldown. Cast Pistol Shot when you have an opportunity proc to generate combo points. Cast Ambush when you have an Audacity proc to generate combo points. Cast Sinister Strike to generate combo points outside of those proc windows. And then you want to cast Dispatch when you have combo points to spend. Use Subtlety as well on cooldown if you are missing at least 100 energy. Now, in terms of some offensive notes, we want to use Adrenaline Rush whenever we want to deal big damage, as this offensive cooldown makes us regenerate energy significantly quicker and giving us additional max energy and also increasing our attack speed. We also want to use Killing Spree while we have Blade Flurry active, and you use that to deal massive burst damage in an AoE to groups of enemies. We can also use Shadow Step to gap close to enemies or allies, or Grappling Hook to quickly reposition ourselves. Some defensive notes: again, use Cloak of Shadows to defend against magical attacks, as it removes all magical effects and makes you immune to them. If you're fighting a physical damage dealer and are in trouble, using Evasion will be helpful to allow you to dodge their attacks. Crimson Vial is, again, it's our really only on-demand heals rogue, so use that to recover some HP if you find yourself needing a heal in a pinch. And then you could also use Vanish defensively if you want to hop into stealth instantly while in combat, so that your enemies can't attack you and so you can escape and get some distance. Like I said, though, after the Vanish duration is up, that improved stealth, you do just go into regular stealth, so any dots or things on you will break you out of it. And because you can't use stealth in combat, Vanish is your only way to re-stealth unless you do leave combat. You can also use Feint when you see yourself about to take damage from a big AoE effect. Now, in terms of our stat priority, guys, we're going to have Agility. Our main stat is going to be top dog. Then we have Versatility, Critical Strike, Mastery, and Haste. Our final spec is the Subtlety spec. Subtlety rogues embrace the shadows, like I said, striking from stealth with their daggers in high burst windows and controlling their enemies' movements with incredibly strong crowd control. They utilize abilities that let them gain access to their stealth kit when they're outside of stealth, helping augment their damage with these big burst windows. The talent builds that we have spec today, similarly to the other two builds, have some talents that do give us some extra healing and defensive boosts, allowing us to more easily recover from mistakes that we make. This build also focuses on giving us more passive boosts, and I'll be going over any active abilities that we choose in the rotation section. The import string for this talent build can once again be found in the description below. Our poison choice is going to be instant poison for our lethal poison and atrophic poison for our non-lethal. Now, in terms of the rotation, I will say that to kick it off, it's going to be similar to the other ones. We're going to use our big burst cooldown first, so going with Shadow Blades on cooldown. We also want to use Flagellation on cooldown, but I would save that for when you build up some combo points, but we'll go over that in a bit. Use Sepsis on cooldown, maintain Slice and Dice, maintain Rupture on your primary target and any targets that will live for a longer period of time. Cast Symbols of Death on cooldown, cast Shadow Dance on cooldown, use Subtlety on cooldown if you're missing at least 100 energy. Cast Cold Blood and then Secret Technique to spend combo points when reaching 6 combo points. Otherwise, you use Eviscerate to spend combo points. Cast Vanish on cooldown to get an extra Shadow Strike, since Shadow Strike is our big damage dealer from stealth, so using Vanish on cooldown will allow us to weave another one of those in. Now, if we're in stealth or if Shadow Dance is active, Shadow Strike is going to be our main combo point builder. Otherwise, we're going to be using Gloomblade. Specifically, you do want to stand behind your target to gain an extra 20% damage. If there's 3 or more targets in the area, you're going to want to use Shuriken Storm. Offensively, for some notes, you want to use Shadow Blades whenever you want to deal big damage, since this offensive cooldown makes us generate more combo points and deal additional damage as Shadow. You want to use Sepsis to put a big dot onto our enemies and also gain a use of Shadow Strike. Now, Flagellation is best used after you've built up combo points so that you can immediately take advantage of its effect. So build up some combo points, then Flagellation, then spend those combo points. We then want to also use Shadow Step to quickly gap close to targets to get on them, quickly. And then you can also use this defensively to move to allies. Speaking of which, some defensive notes. Use Cloak of Shadows to defend against magical attacks to remove all magical effects and make you immune to them. If you're fighting a physical damage dealer and are in trouble, use Evasion, as it will allow you to dodge their attacks. Similarly to the other two specs, Crimson Vial, really only major on-demand heal, so use that if you need to recover some HP. You can also use Vanish to hop into stealth instantly while in combat so that your enemies can't track you, and so that you can use that Shadow Strike additionally. You can also save this to be more defensive if you want, use that to basically get away, gain some distance from your enemies, but just do keep in mind that any dots or effects on you will break you out of stealth when you transition from Vanish to regular stealth, and this is our only way to re-stealth while in combat. Use Feint when you see yourself about to take a big area of effect attack. Our stat priority for this spec is going to be our primary stat, agility first, followed by critical strike, followed by versatility, followed by mastery, followed by haste. But guys, with that being said, that is going to be it for me today on my updated rogue beginner guide for Dragonflight. Hopefully you guys did find this video helpful, and if you did, I would really appreciate a lot if you left a like on it. Any questions about the rogue class, feel free to leave a comment below, and subscribe for more World of Warcraft beginner builds and guides for classes. I do plan on making these videos for all of the classes, so do please check them out if you are subscribed. So thank you all so much for stopping by, guys. I do really appreciate it. As always, I'm Dottz Gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.